A critical plant that manufactures pharmaceutical drugs, generic pharmaceutical drugs, is shipping jobs and manufacturing over to another country. And this is in West Virginia. Joe Manchin should care quite a bit about it because he purports to really care about jobs in West Virginia, especially union jobs in West Virginia. But it turns out that when union leaders tried to get a meeting with him to kind of do something to stop this from happening, Manchin wasn't so interested. I'll get to his statement in just a second, but first, let's talk about this laboratory and why it's so important. It's Mylan Laboratories. It has made 61 drug products, including a substantial portion of the world's supply of a critical thyroid medicine. It's 1,431 highly trained workers, analytical chemists, industrial engineers, and senior janitors among them are represented by the Steelworkers Union. But unfortunately, all are slated to be laid off by month's end. So to give you an idea of how things have already been scaled back at this laboratory, at its height back in 2016, the Morgantown manufacturing site employed more than 3,700 full-time employees and made more than 1,400 drug products, a scale that dwarfs most American drug manufacturing sites according to FDA records. Now, this is actually an incredibly important plant or laboratory because they specifically focus on generic drugs, which tend to be far more affordable than the name brand pharmaceutical drugs. And as we all know, there's a huge problem with our incredibly fragile supply chain. We experienced it during COVID where a lot of the things that we needed were being manufactured in other countries and we were having a tough time getting the supplies, right? Whether it was masks or other protective gear for healthcare workers, toilet paper is another example. The idea of manufacturing these critical generic drugs in other countries should make you uneasy, in addition to the fact that we're losing more jobs, unionized jobs to another country where these executives are looking to exploit cheap labor. Now, when officials from the United Steelworkers Local 8957 managed to get in touch with Manchin, he was incredibly dismissive. So apparently he told them in a quick 2-minute call, video call, he was on the Senate floor. He said, "Sorry about your luck. It sounds like they've reached a corporate decision. There's very little I can do." So the president of the local Steelworkers Union said the following: "We can't reach him. He won't respond. His aides won't respond." And they have good reason to believe that the reason he won't respond is because of some pretty significant conflicts of interest. Union officials believe that Manchin's silence can be traced to the fact that his daughter, Heather Bursch, the former CEO of Mylan, walked away with a $30.8 million golden parachute from the Mylan Upjohn merger. So the decision was made after this merger took place. And as you can see, Manchin's daughter took advantage of a giant $30.8 million golden parachute when this merger happened and she was no longer the CEO of the company. The resulting entity, which so swiftly targeted the Morgantown plant for closure, is led by Bursch's former Mylan colleagues who were also exorbitantly compensated in the merger. So look, there's so many, Cenk, there's so many conflicts of interest with Manchin. I mean, we just did a story yesterday about how he makes $500,000 a year off of his investments in dirty coal in the state of West Virginia. He makes more than double his salary in the Senate by being invested in dirty coal operations in the state of West Virginia. So many conflicts of interest. And in this case, who cares about our fragile supply chains? Who cares about unionized jobs? His daughter's making money. His daughter's got these friendly ties and financial ties to this company, which just did this awful merger. And so he's gonna look out for himself. He's gonna look out for his family's financial interests, and he's gonna move on with his life.
Okay, so there's so many villains in the story, but it's so emblematic of so many different things that we tell you about on the show all the time. So first of all, unions often back corporate Democrats like Joe Manchin. How's that working out for you?
Don't do it.
Okay, so if you'd back the progressive in that race, maybe you would have kept those jobs in West Virginia. Oops, okay. But they're the least of the problems here. Overall, the steelworkers union, they're employing chemists and engineers, not employing them, but having them inside their union and protecting them. That was great, and we wish they had more union workers there, and they needed the protection there from a giant company who screwed them, okay? So now we move to the second issue. Joe Biden, where is he? Nowhere. Why? Oh, I need Manchin for votes, so I'm not gonna criticize him. Besides which, corporate Democrats are gonna corporate Democrat, right? So peas in a pod. So Biden and Manchin agree on almost everything. So nobody's saying anything about all those jobs that are getting outsourced, including the Biden administration. Now, let me go to a hero before I come back to the villains. So the guy who originally started Mylan Laboratories is Mike Puskar, and he turns out to be an awesome guy. And I love this part of the story because it's something I've told you guys 100 times, and I didn't know Mike's story, okay? I said, look, sometimes founders of private companies can actually do the right thing. Public corporations, they have to maximize profit by law, they don't have a choice, right? And that's why you have that greed machine that's called the stock market, right? But in this case, he started Mylan Laboratories in the 1960s, and he always looked out for his employees. He would give all of them turkeys on Thanksgiving. He'd give them all Christmas bonuses. And he would give them free healthcare, no contributions, no nothing, okay? And especially at a time when nobody was doing it. When he finally passed away, at that point the bad guys had taken over his company. So he said, make sure that they could see my casket for 12 hours because I don't want the company screwing over the workers and doing 8-hour shift at that time because he knew already the employees loved him, the company hated him. And after he got pushed out, basically, right? And so, you know what happened? There was a line that went around a city block to see his funeral. It was all the workers of the company, okay? And they loved him. So that's actually was still possible, is still possible in America. But unfortunately, the rest of the story shows you what normally happens. So he brings in Robert J. Curry to run the company. That was the principal mistake he realized later because he was sick. He had to hand off the company. But before he died, he realized, oh no, I made a terrible mistake. Curry's going in the wrong direction. Curry then brings in Heather Bresch, who is Manchin's daughter. Oh, and the things go terrible. Okay, so the turkeys are gone, the Christmas bonuses are gone.
The first thing they want to do is cut costs and skirt federal regulations, FDA regulations.
Yeah, oh, by the way, so originally Mylan Laboratories, when it was run by the good guy, encouraged regulations and was super proud of it. And people would come in, the FDA would come in and use them as an example of what to do right. And by the way, through all that time, they made a lot of money. So it's not like they didn't make money. It's not like they were gonna go under. They were a profitable company, but he could still treat everybody with respect and he could still make safe products that everybody was proud of, right? So now when Bresch comes in, Manchin's daughter, oh, everything goes to hell. You guys remember when she increased the price of EpiPen by 400%?
I sure do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that was a huge story. So, oh, there's nothing I could do. Of course there's something you could do. You don't have to increase it by 400%. That endangers people's lives.
It's interesting. It seems like there's quite a bit he can do when it comes to defeating progressive agenda items in the infrastructure bill or the For the People Act or any type of agenda that Democrats tend to care about. But when it comes to these types of issues, oh, there's nothing he can do. There's nothing, he has no power, really, as a US senator.
Look at that, Joe Manchin says, oh, the reason I do what I do is because I got to protect the union jobs in the coal mines, right?
He wants to protect his
you're
profits.
profiting off the coal mines. How about protecting the union jobs at Mylan Laboratories? Oh, don't care because my daughter made $30 million. Now, I got to explain that part to you guys. So when she did the EpiPen thing and they took away the Christmas bonuses, etc., she's making millions of dollars as an executive, right? And then they would turn around and tell the employees, well, we don't have any money. But we see your public filings. We see how much profit you make. That's just a flat out lie, right? Okay, so now, if you're wondering about the golden parachute, why does anybody ever pay someone on their way out? There might be legitimate reasons in some cases, but in cases like when Dick Cheney left Halliburton to go become vice president, they gave him a giant, I think it was around $34 million. I'm saying that off the top of my head, you can look it up. They gave him a giant, what's called a golden parachute. Why? Because he's gonna be the vice president and he's gonna start a war where Halliburton's gonna make billions. So that's a nice going away present, right? In Bresh's case and Curry's case, the reason why they give them such huge packages is, remember, we're gonna outsource everybody's jobs. Everybody knows that. Nobody, like, it's not like Bresh was caught off guard by it. No, that was the whole point of the merger, okay? And so be a good boy and good girl, okay? And screw over all of your workers, give us the company, we're gonna cut costs, but you're gonna get paid big time. And make sure your daddy doesn't do anything about it. Make sure that dog is muzzled, okay? And they know, and it's a smart move, if Manchin's muzzled, Biden's muzzled. So you pay $30 million to Manchin's daughter and you get everything you want. And that's exactly what happened.
Man, $30.8 million was Bresh's golden parachute. $30.8 million is what the reward she received after this merger happened. And I want to just quickly, before we go, again, emphasize the importance of manufacturing life-saving generic drugs in the United States, right? We again experienced the fragility of our supply chains during the coronavirus pandemic. And so here's what we do know. So first, let me just read this quote that I thought was fantastic from Barbara Evans Fleischauer, who is a Democratic member of the West Virginia House of Delegates. She says, quote, "Did 600,000 people die in vain without us learning we couldn't get hold of sanitizer and toilet paper? Aren't medical drugs important? Wouldn't we want them to be manufactured in our country? You would think so, but when you live under a system that puts profits over people, we shouldn't be surprised that these decisions are made." And also, 63% of all FDA registered facilities manufacture finished doses of generic drugs, but here's the problem. 87% of those making their active ingredients are located outside of the United States. So we're already in a pretty dire situation when it comes to manufacturing generic drugs, because a lot of the ingredients necessary for those generic drugs are manufactured in other countries. This move is making the situation even worse.
And next time you hear Manchin tell you, oh, I'm doing it because I want to protect jobs. For example, he voted against increasing the minimum wage. His excuse was, oh, I want to protect jobs.
He's full of it. We all know he's a liar.
No, the only people who pretend not to know, and maybe they don't know, maybe they're really news actors, as I tell you, and they don't have two brain cells in their heads. But mainstream media, oh no, Joe Manchin is from conservative state and is doing this to protect West Virginia. Well, where's he at? No, Joe Manchin's a liar. When his family is getting tens of millions of dollars, all of a sudden he doesn't give a damn about your job. By the way, he never cared about your job. It was always about his profits, his campaign contributions, his corporate lobbyists, and his family. So they get rich, and this is why mainstream media lost credibility with the right wing and everyone else. Because they keep telling you, no, Joe Manchin is a very honest person who's doing things out of principle. No, he's a corrupt crook. That's the reality, we just proved it to you.
When we come back for the second hour, Republican Representative Mo Brooks, who's facing a lawsuit by Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell, kind of told on himself about the January 6 riots. And Cenk, go ahead.
We got so many great stories, but I gotta update you on one other thing. Johnny Pie's purple hair. Smatty Dragon gifted 10 subs, True Dwabi 5 subs, Spanky 5 subs, Daisy Dragon 5 subs, Progressive Squirrel 5 subs, Senate Cherry Bowfight 10 subs, Little Mac McGee 30 subs, Rodney 10 subs, Joe Marche 5 subs, Drink That OJ 5 subs, Darius 10 subs, Matthias Giovanni 10 subs. I can't wait to see John with purple hair. Okay, keep it going at twitch.tv/TYT. Love you guys. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.